Hello, possums. Greetings to trendsetters wherever you are, all over the world, tuning in. And I'm Dr. Lena Rodriguez, here to try and make some sense of the madness. So let's take a moment to savor the joy of seeing Musk trolled absolutely down to his toenails. So I'm sure most of you have seen the clips, but just in case you haven't, or even if you have, just to relive it for a moment. So there he is on his private jet, wanting to go gaming on Exile 2, thinking he's this Uber player. His avatar was knocked out over and over, and that led to the trolling. So apart from the fact in normal situations, I don't like trolling. However, the more vicious, the more satisfying it was. Am I a perverse old bag here? But it was awesome. So they were saying things like, Elon, you don't have any friends, you never will have, you'll die alone. You're radically insecure, that's never going to change. I mean, truly awful, all are. However, and then others pretending to be one of the ex-wives, or who knows, might have been one of the ex-wives going, Hi, it's Ashley. Can you please pay your child support? Deadbeat dad. I mean, it was delicious. So it gave us all a bit of a lift. And his face, I don't think he knew where the off button was. He put up with it for an hour and a half before he disappeared off the airwaves. And this was all because he was trying to prove how stable the Starlink connection was. Well, it was very stable, lasted for 90 minutes. And apparently, it's even worse. People online who weren't actual trolls were trying to tell him how to delete these comments and things. He couldn't actually work the machine any better than I could. Here we go. Now, let me have a gulp of peppermint tea. I'm a bit croaky today. Big night last night. So, insider trading, let's get to that. So, the world was, you know, careening around on its axis because of the demented tariffs. No one could see a pattern in it, like there was no pattern in it. My nephew lives off the coast, and it's an island called Phillip Island, and it's where a lot of the penguins go to breed. So there were lots of jokes about that during the week too. But as all this is happening, then pause for 90 days. And then there it was, the Yeti in the White House, jumping up and down, figuratively speaking, about how he and his billionaire cronies had just made truckloads of money, pointing to this one and that one. He just made 2 bill. Oh, la, 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 la. Now, don't MAGA see this? I suspect they don't, right? Because Fox wouldn't show that. Even they can work out that's not going to play well in the heartland. So they don't show it. And I don't think they see it. Like we see it on the other channels and podcasts that we watch. But I don't think they ever see this side of him. They choose not to, put it that way. Mm. Anyway, so now when you see such synchronized selling and buying, you do get suspicious. So I'd just like to ask, was it insider trading or was it just the luck of the draw? He was under pressure, so he decided to stop it. And then, whoops, the market went up. And everyone's saying, You're great, genius, genius, the stable genius. Ugh, insider trading, insider trading with the Yeti. All right, let's have a Well, yes. Let's just do a little clarifier here. Yeah, this is the card that makes me think that, and one more here for clarifier. Yeah. Okay, so this was them just going for it. Things were so bad and so dramatic, just it needed a radical intervention through the eyes of the billionaires. Look, this is a win-win. Look at this. Money changing hands. However, I think he had stretched the market, the stock market, which, by the way, is not the economy. However, right, we tend to use the terms interchangeably. So we are talking about the stock market, the economy follows. He'd taken it as far as the elastic band would stretch, right? If he had stayed with those tariffs, maybe even for another 4 weeks, the world would take a different direction. It was that dramatic, fully dramatic. A bit of wisdom came into play, not that the Yeti has two neurons to rub together, but someone had the cachet and the strength. I don't necessarily think it was a woman, but someone had his ear, and we all know whoever has his right ear for 10 minutes before an announcement rules the world, right? So someone did that. But the outcome, this is behind the scenes, the unresolved conflict, everyone fighting in a circle. Look at these gremlins. So there'll be those who'll say, now it's paused, the market has stopped hemorrhaging, we won't go ahead with the tariffs. You can say it was your intention all along. Do it. And there's others who are saying, no, no, the Peter Navarros and people who actually think that the tariffs work. So this is the behind the scenes fighting here. Okay. Now, filed under some of the more diabolical things he's come up with, we have the rapid deportations and stuff, and there's more to it. Forgive me while I have another gulp of my peppermint tea. I promise it's not red wine in a cup. Mm. So now this is part with Homeland Security. They're working on the legal status of over 1 million people who are either in the US legally or are at an interim stage of the process. They're past the first couple of stages. And so Doge has now entered the picture here. And Musk had a friend called Antonio Gracias. I thought I'd misread it. I thought it was Garcia, but no, and he's in charge of destroying lives as a Doge representative in Homeland Security, along with the very strange puppy killer, and Homan, and oh, there's some ghastly hardliners involved. Okay. Now, one of the techniques that they're going to employ, and Trump himself thought this was great, rubbing his little tiny hands together in glee. I know, because Elon's now got access to Social Security and immigration, right? So even though they're having tension and falling apart, his relationship with the muskrat means Elon's deeply embedded in these two gigantic departments. So the new thing is you declare an immigrant dead, cut their social security number. You can do that because the muskrat's in there, and then they get picked up and deported by Homeland Security. So that it's this pincer movement that's truly horrendous. I haven't seen anything like it in my lifetime, and I've been around a very long time. Now, another name you might remember, Eric Prince, Betsy DeVos's brother. Talk about the Black Prince, like. So he made money off those terrible renditions right back to the Bush and Cheney era and beyond. He's the new generation, all of that hideous stuff, Guantanamo. Okay, and he's been hired, he's contracted to make money off this human misery. Ooh, so I want to read on that. And then I've got another bit of good news because we can't just look at the grisly stuff and we can't just stay in the clouds. We've got to move between these zones, right? So, legally, oh, that was the other bit of good news. The Supreme Court finally issued a 9-0 ruling to bring back the Maryland guy that was plucked out in the dead of night and thrown into an El Salvadorian mega camp. Okay, that's important in relation to this question. So they were very clear, surprisingly, about that. I mean, half of them are probably in recovery now, having made a decent decision. They're so unused to it, their brains would have locked up. Control-Alt-D, forced shutdown. Okay, let's have a look at how these horrendous proposals are going to go forward legally. And I'll do a few extra. All right. So at the moment, at the moment, there's a lot of confusion, not surprisingly, because it hasn't happened before. There are no precedents, I think, even for the worst presidents up until now, even for the worst of the GOP, even for the worst of the worst, to actually do this. So people are very confused. Now, for people who are here, I think this is speaking to the established immigrants. A lot of the right-wing Cubans and so forth have established, very successful businesses and stuff. They're working out who they've got to pay to be left alone. This isn't good. This isn't coming from a humanitarian perspective. This is more selfishness. And it's like those legal firms who have decided to pay off the fascist. Okay, so this is that. However, it's not going to play well on social media, the little Twitter birds here. No, it's simply too many people. I mean, in Australia, we have a very high and diverse population. It's something like 47% of Australians parents have a different ethnicity from Anglo-Australian. It goes down to 25% were born overseas. So the second generation, when you add that, becomes almost half the population. And I'd imagine the US has similar sort of stats. It's just so many people. And these are not recent desperate economic migrants. This can impact on all sorts of people. So, what was the other? I had the other piece of good news, which I've momentarily forgotten here. There was the Supreme Court. Well, hopefully it'll come to me because I did want to give you some good news. So now, war with China, this is particularly disturbing to us. We are in the region of Asia that is impacted by China. They're our biggest trading partner. They're also one of the USA's biggest trading partners, so it's totally crazy. So let's have a look at what's happening with China. What's happening with China? They're not happy. And JD Vance referring collectively to the Chinese people as peasants. Some things still actually are extreme enough to take your breath away, are they not? Can you actually believe? And it wasn't even a hot mic. He thought it was a good thing to say. Oh, all right. Now, USA, China, but it's also us. Let's say the world. How is this insult of China? You've got a full-blown trade war. Is it going to tip over into anything else? Mm, let's have a look. I don't want to look at it too deeply because I'm too close to it. I just want to get a vibe for now going forward. Right, let's have a look. These are big cards. I only wanted to dabble. Look at this, 5 cards and 3 are majors. So the Fool. Now, as professional readers, we often spend time talking about the other aspects of the Fool, that it doesn't really mean someone's foolish. It can also be quite a sophisticated card. However, sometimes it just means the fool stepping off a cliff. That would be the Yeti. Okay. Now, the Hanged Man. Things not going forward quickly as a rule. However, these things are moving forward quickly. So we need the second interpretation, which is the new perspective. So this is what's happened, particularly with Vance absolutely insulting the UK and now China. It started, of course, with the Yeti and Canadians. That's not going to come back to normal for 2 generations minimum. It's the other stuff they say that does the damage, right? And so China isn't going to come back in a hurry into the fold. I think this represents the Queen of Pentacles is very practical. This might be a way around the issues because, of course, what people are going to start to do is make their goods in one country, take them to another country just to put on a ship, which will then have a flag. They've done versions of this forever in capitalism, right back since the East India Company. It's not new, but the scale going forward will be new of basically finding practical ways around the worst of the tariffs. I think this is Asia talking behind the scenes. And yes, this is the death of that relationship, which was never warm and fuzzy, but it was a working relationship, mainly because people don't want to pay $3,000 for an iPhone or $5,000 for an iPhone. So that gathers people's attention. But look, underneath the horse's hooves, someone resembling the 47. Oh my God. Now, in other corrupt and one would have thought until 2 days ago illegal practices, State Department employees now are expected to report on each other. They've been given anonymous forms to report. What do they call it? Anti-Christian bias. Ooh. What does it mean? It means it's the end of the separation of church and state. Well, that died with the reversal of Roe and Wade. Okay, anyway, along with the immigration thing. So now they've actually put the Constitution in the shredder, right? It's coming out in 2,000 parts because can you believe that it's back to the McCarthy era? But don't worry, these cycles of repression are just that, cycles. So don't panic too much, be part of the resistance. And also, I remembered the good news. Do you remember the Koch brothers? And one of them carked it, as we say in Australia, a while ago. There's one remaining Koch brother, Charles. Not a nice man, but he's best buds with Leonard Leo of the Federalist Society. These are two of the most conservative men. But here's, here's the latest. They are suing. I didn't have time to look into who, but they're suing over the tariffs because they were a deliberate and unnecessary provocation to the market or something. It's unprecedented. The point is, these guys have bottomless pits of money. So if nothing else, they're going to be interesting cases to watch. So let's have a looky here and see advice for you guys, dear possums, intrepid viewers, one and all. I mean, can you believe, excuse me, that such a powerful country as the US would allow itself, look, I don't think he would be the first president who had sociopathic tendencies. He's probably not the first narcissist in there. But we're not talking character traits or behavioral things that aren't that pleasant. We're not talking that. We're talking, he's an out and out psycho. And because is a fully fledged authoritarian regime, the yes people, it's just like every movie or book you've ever read on dystopia, it's all there. It's so blatant. I mean, if Congress grew a spine, they could get him out in 5 minutes, the 25th or the 14th or whatever it is, and save the Constitution, but they're not there yet. Not there yet. Okay, now, this is for you guys. Advice going forward. This is Saturday in Australia, so we're not going forward very far, just the next week or so, because of course the next protests are on the 19th. Let's have a look. I keep getting such good stories from the protests. It's fantastic. Okay. This is for you guys. Well, that's a good use of the swords. All right. So now, Queen of Cups. 1 foot on a bit of earth and 1 foot in the water. Work-life balance, or you could say political, spiritual balance, anything that requires balance, and God knows we need it right now. Okay. So it's important the Queen of Cups gets the energy, understands the emotion. But I'll show you why the balance matters. Ten of Swords, don't freak out. I'm actually quite fond of the Ten of Swords. Why? Because it's like all the piercings are done now. It's like they've almost run out of swords themselves. And here's the Phoenix rising. And I would date this from the protests recently because people were feeling really defeated and down, and the Phoenix rose, right? And so it gives you the energy to carry on. So here, but we're looking for the balance between the softer, intuitive, gentler side of our natures and this Queen of Swords could be a bit of a Judge Judy. So hanging on to the sword of righteousness, the sword of justice, right? So it's like balancing your emotional world and your rational world. So it's so, so very important. And I have to do this myself, and I feel much better when I remember to do it. And I feel much more disjointed when I forget to do it, which is simply clear the brain morning and night. You could be zoning out over your coffee in the morning, and instead of burrowing in the news or thinking of what you have to do, just take, it can be a minute, it can be 2 minutes, you know, just let the brain go. And the same at the other end of the day, right? When it gets dark, okay, I can't do any more about it all today. I am releasing it consciously. This is very conscious. This is the subconscious, right? Consciously let it go and just do something nice for yourself each night. It might be something for a couple of minutes, or it could be something that's longer, but you like doing it, makes you feel better, right? So, in other words, bookend your day so all this stuff doesn't crowd out your brain and your soul space, right? So, let me know your tricks, techniques, strategies for doing that. And it really helps, particularly the one at night. Okay. All right, guys, love you and see you soon. Ciao. Bye.